Top of the afternoon, everybody. Modim Simcha, and I guess Chag Sameach almost. I want to just jump on. Well, first of all, everybody, repeat after me. Hayom.
Hayom.
Hamisha Yamim. Ba'omer.
Ba'omer.
Today is 5 days of the Omer. Let's try to get that out of the way. And I also want to just send a shout out to Tom and Linda Logie, who are here this evening. And I'm 51. I think I've known them. They've been friends with my parents for 35 years. So it goes back a ways. So hi, Tom and Linda. Good to see you both. And I want to just pounce on Stan for just a second. Stan, if you don't mind.
It's okay.
You mentioned having the Shmora matzah. At Pesach, if it's got a little Pesach hechsher on it, it's close for Pesach, it is, by definition, matzah shmura.
What goes on?
Shmura matzah. The only question is, there are two opinions as to the degree of shmura, the degree of guarding, watching the wheat so that it doesn't come in contact with water. One is from the time of harvest. One is from the time of milling. The stricter opinion, harvest, is what has come to be known as shmura matzah. But if it is not shmura matzah according to one of those two opinions, then it's not matzah for Pesach, but it is shmora one way or the other. So I just wanted to jump on you for that, Stan. Thank you for the opportunity. Before we get into anything I have planned for this evening, I have written here, any questions from Pesach thus far? Do you have any questions from Seder, something that came up that you didn't have a chance to handle at the table or while you were perusing through the 13 Maxwell House Haggadot that you have on the, in your library? Anything come up that struck you as needing further comment?
It just if you have any questions, anyone, just unmute yourself and then ask the question and put yourself back on mute, please.
Yes, I do. Why does the matzah never break where the holes are?
Because the day in and of itself is holy enough.
Oh, gee.
Thanks for the setup on that. I appreciate it. Anything else? Okay. So if there's nothing else, we are going to jump into what I planned for today. Please note, folks, that if you have any questions as we go through the material I have, you're not the only one. There are no stupid questions. There are only stupid answers, so that's all on me. And if you have a question, it means I haven't explained something clearly. You're not the only one who has the same question. So please, 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 please feel free to ask. I promise I'm friendly. Okay? Everybody nod. Okay, good. All right, so with that, and I'm going to be going back and forth. I have two computers here, one with the Zoom conference and one with all of my sources on it. We are going to start tomorrow, Shavuot Shel Pesach. Tradition, either Shavuot Shel Pesach, 7th day of Pesach, or Chol HaMoed. The tradition is that we read Shir HaShirim. It's a Kabbalistic tradition. It pops in comparatively late in the Jewish liturgical cycle. And the book is not without controversy. Not at all. Let's start, though, in the tradition of one of my teachers with the relevant Mishnah. We find in Mishnah Yadayim the following. So, Sefer Shinimchak Mistera Bo 85 Otiyot, Parashat Vayehi Ben Soharon, Mitamer Yadayim. That a Sefer Kodesh that has been written properly, with quill and cloth and so on, but has still 85 letters remaining, as is in Parashat Vayehi Ben Soharon. And if you go in Parashat Bahalotecha, you'll find in the middle of that parasha this little paragraph that's set off by two nuns. That's Pashat Vayihi bin Saron. And you know it, Vayihi bin Saron, Vayomer Moshe. You know that. So if you count in between those two backwards nuns, you'll find there are 85 letters. And that is Pashat Vayihi bin Saron. It is considered Sefer B'pnei Atzmo, a Sefer in and of its own right. And so that is where you achieve the status of Ktav Kodesh, of a holy book, got 85 letters, like Vayihi bin Saron. Considered canon. Canon is the Greek word meaning book. Anyway, so Megillah shekatuv ba 85 otiyot kepashat Vayihi bin Saron, Megillah with 85 letters. Also, canon. All of the holy writings, canon. And now we get into the issue. Shira Shirim beKohelet v'Taminat HaYadayim. Shira Shirim in the book of Kohelet, which in theory we would read at Chol Moed Sukkot, are considered canon. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shira Shirim v'Taminat HaYadayim beKohelet Machloket. So Rabbi Yehuda says Shira Shirim is definitely canon. Kohelet, there's some dispute. Rabbi Yossi, who was contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda, Kohelet eno mitamei dayim b'shir shirim machloket. Rabbi Yossi says Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, is not canon, but there's dispute about shir shirim. Okay, and the Mishnah pushes on a little bit, and the Rabbi Shimon ben Azai. So Shimon ben Azai says, so Shimon ben Azai says that, I heard from the 70 elders that on the day that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was nominated and put into the yeshiva, Shir Shirim beKohelet v'Taminat HaYadayim. The Shir Shirim and Kohelet, Shir Shirim and Ecclesiastes are canon. And this is the piece of text that I love from this. Amar Rabbi Akiva, Chas v'Shalom, lo nechalak adam Yisrael asher shirim shelo titamei et hayadayim. Rabbi Akiva says, God forbid, Chas v'Shalom, that there's any dispute about shir shirim and its status. She'en kol ha'olam kulo chadai kayom shenitan bo shir shirim liyisrael. That the whole world, all of creation, does not measure up to the day that Shir Shirim was given to the children of Israel. And that all the sacred writings are sacred, are Kodesh. Shir Shirim, Kodesh, Kodashim. And Shir Shirim, which we read tomorrow, is Kodesh, Kodashim. It's not just Kodesh, it's not just holy writing, it's a step above. So after the back and forth, after deciding whether it belongs or doesn't belong, some people say machloket, there's dispute, some say it doesn't fit at all. You get a glowing, emphatic recommendation on Shir Shirim and its status as canon from none other than Rabbi Akiva. And by the way, most of the people we mentioned in there in disputing this were Rabbi Akiva's students. So apparently they missed a class with him. Who knows? Okay, so Ad Khan, any questions up till now? Alrighty, so if we look at the questions regarding Shir Shirim now, what is it? Is it an allegorical statement about the intimate relationship that the children of Israel are supposed to have with God? Maybe. Or is it biblical erotica? That's the question. And I know where I stand. But it is a subject of a lot of disputes amongst the rabbis throughout the ages. We'll start with Rashi. We'll return to Rashi later today. There's something else that he mentions that's important. So Rashi says that you should always mark your spot. Okay, there we go. Amarani, Shirash Shlomo. So Shlomo, King Solomon, saw Beruach HaKodesh, She'atidin Yisrael legalot gola achar gola. And the children of Israel would be exiled from place to place to place to place. Choban achar choban, destruction after destruction. Uleitonin begalot zo al kvodam rishon. And to be in despair in this continuing exile, looking back at their earlier glory. Okay, and he goes on a little bit, but ultimately, you can already hear he's pointing away. Rashi is pointing away from the way, any idea that this is purely erotic poetry. He writes further, there we go. He said in the language of a woman sitting as a widow, missing her spouse, remembering their youthful love, but that's the language in which it's phrased, discussing this relationship between God and the children of Israel. So he's leaning away from erotica. Unless we think that there's any dispute further, well, there is, but unless we think that he's the only one from Ibn Ezra. God forbid, God forbid that you see this as erotica. Ibn Ezra is seeing it entirely as a mashal. So it's using that relationship of intimate lovers to talk about the relationship that we're supposed to have with God. So there's some strong opinions here saying, we're not going that way. God's not walking into the Tanakh, our Kitbei Kodesh, our sacred writings are not coming into that locked room. Not happening. So that's one way we can consider and look at this. Now, we look further, and we come much later in history. We meet the Akedat Yitzchak, who I give him credit because he writes that, yet again, fiddlesticks. He writes both. He says you can read this both ways, and he offers running commentaries on how to understand Shir Shirim. So he's trying to, walk a thin line here and see both. Okay, I'll give him that. At least he's giving a little bit of chizuk to a traditional understanding, but there's also understanding that maybe the language is just a little bit too rich to see it as this is a relationship between God and the children of Israel. A little bit too rich. So, another way though, in seeing it that way, one of the pieces of text within it, the lover is peering through the lattice work. The male lover is peering, glancing through the lattice work. If you go into the midrash on that, midrash there relates back to Birkat Kohanim. God says, say to Aaron and his kids, bless the children of Israel. This is what you say to them. The children of Israel, being the surly bunch that they are, Right? Respond, we don't want Aaron's blessing. Give me a break. No, we want God's blessing. And the response is that God is there, metzit min ha'charokim, peering through the lattice work. Chancellor Schorsch, former Chancellor Seminary, points out from the Midrash that the Kohanim go up on the Duchan for, when they're going to do Birkat Kohanim, and they take their hands, they go like this. Lattice work. It's visual midrash based on Shir Shirim, but and also connected though to that idea of the erotic relationship that we should have, that the children of Israel should have with God. So Yaakov Yitzchak, like I said, he tries to walk the thin line here and see it as both erotica and an intense personal relationship between God and the children of Israel. All right. There's another commentary, though. It's entitled, I don't know who it is. It's listed as Perush Mechachmei Tzarfat, a commentary from the scholars of France. I have no clue who that is. It could be a lot of people. It's not Rashi, because you've already seen his Perush. But it's, it's France. Rashi's France, Rashbam is France in terms of Torah commentary. You get numerous others. France was a vibrant place. And it's, wow, he goes off, not even off the rails. So on the first verse, okay, sorry, the second verse. He should kiss me, because your kisses are sweeter than wine, which is a great song from much later. Nishikot, harbe nishikot, lots and lots of kisses. Lama? Shelo hayiti sveya minishika achat o mishtayim, rak miharbe nishikot. That one kiss or two is not sufficient. There must be more. And whoever this is Perush Mechachmei Tzarfat, we're just going to keep going with that. And we're going to go, okay, so we'll go to chapter 1, verse 11. In chapter 1, verse 11, getting there, hold on. Torei Zahav Na'aseh Laha. So Torei Zahav, you're golden. And he says, Kol noi v'chol yofi hatlui baguf yesh bach. Every matter of physical beauty that is dependent on the body, you have. One or two more from Chachmei Tzarfat, and then I'll bring it all together. Let me just get to the next verse that I had noted. It's a great being able to do all of this with a computer, because you can take all of your books with you everywhere. The downside is I can't, make notes on the screen because, it's a problem. So looking into chapter 2, left hand under my head, his right hand is hugging me. Okay? This is the way lovers lie. And from this abundance of love, from this abundance of affection, placing their hearts together. So you see here that there's a strong stream that this is not allegorical in any way. This is a lover's poem. Now, where do I stand on this? I'll tell you where I stand on it. Some years back, I had the interesting idea, and by the way, I still believe this to be an interesting idea. At the holiday of Shavuot, we read Megillat Ruth. We read the book of Ruth. And I always thought it would be fun to have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 readers. I'd have to do the numbers in my head. You'd have a narrator, you'd have Ruth, you'd have Boaz, you'd have Nomi, and each person would read a part as the text goes. And then from that, okay, can we do that with the other Megillot? Well, let's see. What do you do with Shir HaShirim? Am I going to sit in front of a community and read that with Rav Jen? No. I reached that answer in about a half second. And right there, that pretty much sealed the argument for me on what Shir HaShirim is. I see it clearly as erotic poetry, far more than this allegory, these allegory questions. And I'm sticking to that. So for shel davar, is it human erotica? Is it that we're supposed to have that deep, erotic, ecstatic relationship with God? Let the debate continue. Study the Mikolot. I'm there. It'll be fun. Let the debate continue. But whatever it is, whether it's two lovers, whether it is God and the children of Israel, no matter what's happening, it shouldn't be rote. It shouldn't be something that becomes stale. It shouldn't be something that bores either party. However you see it, the message there is the same, one way or the other. Our intimate relationships with our lovers, our intimate relationship with God, should have some oomph to it. You shouldn't just, feel it. I always tell my students, I demand your mind, and I do. But you should feel it from your soul also. Feel it from your soul. Enjoy it. Be passionate about it. And don't let it become rote. No matter how we interpret the poem, no matter which way you go, that message stands. I'll add in one other thing, and then I'll take any questions that might have come up. I mentioned Rashi. Remember him? And Rashi, he is, forget now, we're past the question of erotica versus God and the children of Israel. Rashi takes his sides on that. It's God and the children of Israel. We'll return to his introduction to this book. And what does he write? This will sound familiar, I hope. So, we say the second it talks about a woman who, whose husband is gone. Maybe she's a widow. She misses him. Longs for him. Remembering their youthful passion. Okay. Gam dodah. Her lover, her spouse. Feels for her. And also remembers their youthfulness together. So, even though it's using again that allegory, that idea of the intimate spousal relationship to describe the children of Israel and God. Now, the question that I have on this, and I have at least 2 esteemed colleagues, plus a cantor, so I guess that's 3 esteemed colleagues here. Did Rashi study Rashi? There's my question. My answer is yes. Why? You'll see why I'm asking that question in a second. So right here, though, we see two lovers separated. We see longing for each other. I want to jump ahead 4 months. We go to Tisha B'Av. And, all right, pop quiz. Besides the rabbis in the cantor here, what Megillah do we read on Tisha B'Av? No, not you, Stan.
Eicha.
Echa. Echa.
And a magnificent piece of text, beautiful cantillation. And Rashi here, his opening commentary on Echa, I think connects to, I think it's Davka connected, what we just heard from him at Shir HaShirim. What does he say at the beginning of Echa? The city once teeming is now desolate like a widow. Ki almana. Rashi writes, Haita ki almana, like a widow. V'lo almana mamash. Not actually a widow. Why? Ela kisha shalach balach limidnat hayam v'dato lachazor etzela. Rather like a woman whose husband had to travel far off, but who intends to come back. Now we look at that and connect that. On one hand, they're parted. That's Eicha. And on the other hand, beginning of Shir HaShirim with Rashi, they miss each other. I think that those two commentaries work together. I think they're meant to work together. I think Rashi did study Rashi there. Two lovers parted, Eicha, missing each other, hoping to put it back together. Shir HaShirim. And with that, any thoughts, comments, questions, bad jokes? I'm up for all of it.
So, quick question.
Mhm.
In the Shema, it says to love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might. How does that tie in to this? Being this is more of husband and wife, a lover, with the poetry. And again, I'm going to read it again tomorrow very slowly to make sure I get all the good parts that I've missed all the years. But because in the Shema, it says, right, you love your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might.
Yeah.
And this is already taking it to, I guess, the next level or 10 levels above. Does anybody tie the two in?
Nobody ties the two in, to my knowledge. But that doesn't mean that we can't. And we come back to, when you get to Shema tomorrow morning, you can do the mumble. Shema is love. Or chant it and feel it a little bit. Chant it and feel it. Think about each word or every other word or a line here and a line there. And don't just do it rote. If we are taking that allegorical idea, our Jewish observance shouldn't be rote. There should be passion. Sing it. Don't just feel it. Or don't just say it. Okay?
I have a comment on the, do you hear me?
I hear you. Yep.
Okay. I have a comment on your reference to the French interpretation, which was characteristic of the time. The style that was called Dolce Stil Nuovo, the new style, which was a combination of the erotic and the allegorical. The most famous practitioner was, of course, Dante, where he basically elevated this, but it was true in many other respects in the Zohar as well, to some extent. So that it was a product of the time, of the 11th to the 15th century, where whether I always thought, and in fact, it's always represented in books as something that evolved in France, but it's possible that it was actually influenced by the Song of Songs. that the Song of Songs had that impact in world literature. For further clarification, you might refer to my Kindle book, Waiting for Godiva.
So my only issue with that makes perfect sense to me, is that we have this Perush Michachmei Tzarafat, this commentary from the scholars of France. I don't think it was written yesterday or last week, but we don't know who wrote it yet. I don't know the dating on it. The website I've got open here doesn't mention it. But, look, the way we study text absolutely cycles and is influenced by all manner of outside issues. Rashi starts this whole idea of looking for pshuto shel mikra, the pshat, whatever that word means, of text. And I think that part of trying to say, no, this is what text says, is because a lot of our Christian friends were really opening up the meanings and perhaps doing a little bit of eisegesis to bring certain concepts back from Christian scripture into the Tanakh. So we definitely deal with these outside influences, no question. And you will also see historical trends as these things develop. I have a question. Did I answer your question there, Ron?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question in the chat bar. Give me 1 second, please. And from Danny to me, sorry, have you discovered Canadian Passover traditions different from USA cousins? Not so much. I think our traditions, this is one spot where it doesn't cross the border all that much. And looking at it, because so many of the customs of the Jewish community regarding Pesach were really, for most of the last century, dominated by our Ashkenazi influence. There's a lot of stability. I wouldn't feel out of place walking into a Seder south of the border. And how is Canadian Jewish culture different than from USA in traditions and tonality? Oh, that's an interesting question. What do you think influenced how cultures developed? One of the things that would have influenced how cultures developed here is that the Catholic Church is much stronger. And, especially in Quebec. More recently, I'm not in the congregational world right now, but when I was at my last pulpit, on any given day, I was having conversations in English, Hebrew, and French. So you have that impact of different languages and the culture that go with those languages, very much part of what happens here in Canada. Never really spoke much French when I was in the US, and not as much Hebrew. Canada has the largest population outside of Israel of Israelis. There's a lot of Hebrew spoken here. I use it daily. And the last question, how do you think we emerge post-COVID as a Jewish community? Wow, I have no clue. I will tell you that what changes are temporary, what changes are long-lasting. What we're doing right now is long-lasting. The whole idea of having, anything, learning, services, whatever, via Zoom, it ain't going anywhere. And as much as we all wanted to, there are real circumstances that say, no, it shouldn't go anywhere. One of my former regulars is getting on in years. Parkinson's is doing what it does. And it's a fair question to say, well, wait, why aren't we doing this by Zoom anymore? If you can justify it in one case halachically, why not in another? That's a fair question. And it's going to require a lot of people with a lot of thoughtful answers. So I don't know, in terms of that, which ones are temporary, which ones are long-lasting. That is really going to depend from community to community.
Rabbi, a question, please. Would you comment on the chronology or the sequence between when we recognize Shir HaShirim and Echa? Why does Shirim Shir HaShirim come before Echa? Why doesn't Echa come before Shir HaShirim? Your thoughts?
So my thoughts on that, I hope everybody heard the question. They normally say in public speaking, you repeat the question, but that assumes that not everybody heard because of, wide auditoriums of people spread out. Yes, we're spread out, but it's not such a wide auditorium. And why does it come first? I'm not sure what you mean by coming first, Elliot. Please
As you
explain.
talk about the relationship between the message of Shir HaShirim and the message of Echa, why are we reading Shir HaShirim before Echa as opposed to reading Echa before Shir HaShirim?
Well, I guess depending on which one you read first, depends where you start your calendar. But Shir HaShirim is connected to to Pesach. Echa is connected to Shabbat. We still have a few months to go to get there. So I'm not sure I answered the question. I'm not sure I understood the question you're asking.
It seems to me in your commentary that you were indicating the connection between the two.
I'm indicating the connection. Rashi's commentary.
All right, from Rashi's commentary, how would he account for that sequencing?
I'm not sure that the question would even dawn on him. They're all, given that they're all, by this point, the canon is clearly set. It's canonical. Which came first, how they relate to each other, chronologically, I don't think would occur to him in any way.
Toda.
Okay, and I've just been told that I took the last question, and I now turn this over to Zach. Hey, Zach.
Well, actually, Alan's going to thank you. I don't know if you're staying or not. So Rabbi Sean Gorman, thank you so much. Very interesting. I hope everybody, when they read over the weekend Shir HaShirim, you're going to look at it a little differently and get a little bit more out of it. Toda Rabbah. And I used to live in Bathurst Village on Torresdale. So I remember seeing the Pride of Israel be built, and we belong to Adat Israel. So that's where we went. Toda Rabbah, and please say hello to Rabbi Jen and the kids.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you so much. Zach, I don't know if you really need an introduction.
I don't know. Do I?
I don't think so. I think everybody knows Hazzan Zach Mondrow.
It's only been a week. I mean, come on.
You will? Oh, no, that's scary. Wait, let me get out of the big zoom. I don't want to pin the...
Oh, really? All I see is me. And I don't like that look either. Ooh, this is a touch screen.
Exactly. So, Zach, take it away, please.
So, because we are in the midst of a holiday, we do not do a full Kabbalat Shabbat. As one of my former rabbis used to say, we do not have a Kabbalat Pesach, and we wouldn't want Pesach to get jealous. So we will begin with the 92nd Psalm, Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. L'shimcha elyon. Tov tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer, ulezamer, l'shimcha elyon. Tov tov lehodot l'Adonai. Hagid baboker chasecha. Lehagid baboker chasecha. Emunatcha baleilot, emunatcha baleilot. Tov tov lehodot l'Adonai. Lehagid baboker chasecha. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב טוב להודות חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב טוב להודות לאדוני. ותאמרו לעולם אדוני כי lastly, Psalm 93. Adonai malach geut lavesh, Adonai oti tazar. Aftikon tevel, Baltimot, Aftikon tevel, Baltimot, Nachon kitzecha me'az, me'olam atah, Naseu Adonai Naseu ne'arot kolam, yitzeu ne'harot okyam, mikolot mayim rabim, adirim mishpereyam, adir b'marom Adonai, adir b'marom. those who would like to participate in Kaddish D'Rabbanan, if you're in a period of mourning or observing a yurt site, you may unmute yourselves and join along with Kaddish D'Rabbanan. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash Shemei Rabbah v'alema divra chirute v'amlich malchute b'chayei uvyomei uvchayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam lomei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu
Brichu.
le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alema v'imru amen.
Amen.
Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Tamidehon v'al kol Tamidehon v'al kol man diaskin b'araita di v'atra hadin v'di v'kol atar v'atar Yehei lechon ulechon shlama rabba china v'chitz davrachamin v'chayin aruchin umzona v'cha ufakana min kadam aruchon divishmai v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Amen.
And that's all we have for Kabbalat Shabbat this week.
Awesome.
Modim l'simcha, Chag Sameach, or Modim Simcha while you still have it, Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom.
And Toda Rabbi Zach. Just so everybody knows, there are 3 sponsors tonight. Steve Baturin is sponsoring tonight just because it's Pesach. So I guess he's excited about matzah and boiled eggs and maybe some gefilte fish. But Steve, thank you so much. Our second sponsor is Chuck and Marsha Bernstein, celebrating their 45th wedding anniversary. Next week, I think it's Monday or Sunday, Monday, one of the 2 days, but 45th. May you have many, many more happy anniversaries and enjoy. And our third is David and Marnie Kaplan for the number 68. Dave's 68th birthday is happening, I think, today. And so he wanted a sponsor, and he's getting his second vaccine during his 68th birthday. So he likes the number 68, and I think there's somebody, a ball player or something, that has 68, the number 68. Or I don't know if it's gematria, if it's the 6 and the 8 is 14 divided by 2, and then you add your birthday and you get to that player's name. I'm not sure which way, but to our sponsors, Toda Rabbah, thank you so much. Sponsorships are always available. You can make it out to any of the organizations you wish, and just let Stan or I know, and we most appreciate it. Sean, thank you so much. We're most appreciative. And Zach, what can we say? You're like part of the family. So it's kind of hard to, just thank you. Thanks for stepping in and doing the Kabbalat Shabbat. And enjoy. Modim l'simcha to all, a Shabbat Shalom. And may this Pesach be like the Israelites before, the redemption, and may we see freedom from this virus and pandemic that's affecting us all. And may we only know good things and be able to celebrate the way we want to and the way we have in the past. And we can all see our families and grandchildren and the rest. So only good things. Stay safe. Enjoy the last couple of days of Pesach. Make sure you get your last fill of matzah, because during the year, it just doesn't taste the same. I don't know about you guys. I like matzah in my soup. So I crunch it up and I put them into my soup. So Karen buys me matzah during the year so I can crunch it up and put it in my soup. And I got to tell you, it just doesn't taste the same. I don't know if it's my mind or what, but it just doesn't taste the same. So enjoy, and only good things.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Hag Pesach Sameach.
Hag Sameach.
Hag Shalom. Hag
Shalom.
Hag Sameach.
Happy anniversary.
2 more days.
Shabbos, Shabbos, Shabbos. Shabbat.